Hi friends, welcome to Pywarriors. In today's video, we will be talking about the rest of the series where I'll be loading dynamic content from the DB onto the blog section, and also I'll be adding a blog details page, and also we will be adding a footer section. As you can see, I have already added the blog body from the database, and now we need to add the tags session to the cards. So for that we need to get the tags field, and as you know the tags field is a many to many field, so I just need to loop through all the tags for that specific blog. For that we can use a keyword, that is we can access the tags using blog.tags.all, and that will show all the tags that are associated with that particular blog, and we can display it using that tag keyword that we use to access the tags, and this could show all the tags associated with that particular blog. So I'm ending the for loop there. Let's check if it's working. So let's refresh the page, and it seems working. So to make sure that it's working, we can add a new tag to a blog post and then check if it is working. So there are two tags there, so we can add another tag also to the second blog post. I think we could add a desert to the tag, and yes, it is working. You can see that. So the tags are dynamically loaded from the database. The blog body and the title is also loaded from the database. Now I have added this to the featured items session. Now after that we can add that the same code to the all items section also. So let's do that. I'm just copying the same content from the featured blog session and pasting it to the all blogs session, because I think that's both use the same syntax, so we can reuse the code there. Just copied it, then paste it in the same section there, and I could remove the old section. And let's check if it's working. So I refresh the page, and it shows. So that's done for now. I've removed that media icon there because it doesn't look nice. So everything is now loaded from the database. Now we can start adding a new blog details section. So for that let's go to the views.py and then add a new class of blog post or blog details, blog details, and I'll be using the detail view to show the details of the blog details, and let's import the detail view. We are using the detail view here, so we could import the detail view from django.views.generic, and I'll change that to detail view. And the detail view has a query set, so we would pass the query set for that particular block. So block post dot objects dot filter, and we could get an ID from the URL. So I want to check that it is posted is true, and also we'll pass the ID there. So I'm referring the Django's documentation for the detail view there. So we can get a ID from the URL itself. So we could add first we have to add a template for that blog detail page. So I'll be adding a blog post.html file there, and I could pass the template name as that file, blog post.html. And I have to add the new blog detail path to the URLs. So here I am adding the blog post URL, and I'll be passing the ID of the blog that I need to edit. So there is we can pass it as PK, so primary key, and it will use that ID to fetch that particular blog, and Django does all these automatically, so we don't need to worry about fetching the PK inside the blog detail view. So I will passing a name to access it from the URL tag inside the templates blog detail. So I'll be editing the blog post.html file here. It also extends the home.html file. No, it's layout.html file, which I extended in the home.html file also. So we can get all the layout related stuff just by extending that layout, and then we could access the blog detail parameters inside this HTML file. So I am looking for that, and we could get now we can add the body and add the necessary HTML for the blog detail page. So I added the body block there, and let's use the hero section from the Bulma to display the big section with that image as the background. So I'm adding the title here, so we can access the whole blog as object, and we can use the object or title to display the title of that blog. Now we can add the URL of each blog to the cards so that we can access each blocks if we click on a particular card. I'm adding the link on the title here, so you can use the URL keyword to access the URLs. So here URL, and I could pass the name that I have earlier given in the urls.py, that is blog post, and then pass the ID of that particular blog, blog.pk. So that will show that particular blog inside that blogpost.html file. So let's see if it's working, because I have passed the title there, so it should work. So you can see that it's showing the blog post 2. When I click on 13, it shows 13, so the thing is working. Now we need to add this to the featured section also. Before that, let's add that to the featured section also. So I copy that and paste that there, so featured sections will also navigate properly. Yeah, it's working. So that's done. Now we need to design the blog detail page there. So we have just added the title only, so we need to add the rest of the blog there. So I am using the hero section from the Bulma to display the big large section with that image. So here I'm adding the title inside this hero section, so that would display nicely. And we don't need that subtitle. So let's see, there's a huge hero block there, so just we can edit that section inside Google Chrome, and then we could copy that CSS and paste that in the CSS files. That would be easier. So I always edit CSS inside the browser to see real time what is happening, and then I'll pass that to the HTML or the CSS files. Here I am passing the background image in using the style tag, because it's much easier to access the background image here using the object.image.url. So image.url, so it is very easy. If we use CSS, that would be much harder, so that is why I am passing that background image using this style tag there inside the HTML. Then I could style this whole thing using CSS afterwards. So here we can add the background size to contain or cover based on your preference, and then add some more styles there, and then we can copy that style to a CSS file. So I'm here aligning the text to the center, making it a bit bigger. So let's add the class for text, the Bulma classes, and I am passing a custom CSS class there. In style.css, and here you can define that class. So you can give the background size as cover, and then we could add another class to make text centered. As text centered, I think, yes, it is text centered, and it will place it in the center of the image. And then we could add another class to make the text a bit larger. That is also a Bulma class. So it looks fairly nice. Now we could add a section to display the body of the blog. I have actually used the body in the card sections, but I am truncating that to 100 characters. But here we should display the whole body here. So I am adding a section and a container, and added a p tag. Inside that we could call object.body, and it will display the whole body there. So it's in Latin because it's lowering some text. And here we can justify the text so it looks a bit nicer. And so it's blog detail page is already looking nicer. So then we could check for another blog. Here I can see that the white text is not legible or visible in a fairly light background, so I am going to add a shadow, text shadow here. So you can use box shadow, I think, yes, it's box shadow. And we could add the X, Y, and then amount of blur, and the next parameter I don't remember, but you have 4 parameters there, and then we can add the think it's not box shadow, it's text shadow, I think. Yes, it's text shadow. And it also box shadow is used around a div, and text shadow is for the particular text. It also has XY and blur and I think amount of blur, and we can pass a it has blur or only, I think, yeah, and a color, so we could pass that. And we could increase the value of the blur so it would look a bit nicer. And we could use the RGBA naming scheme to pass a amount of opacity so that the color would not be harsh, and we could get a nice little shadow over the text. So you can use this feature in Chrome or Firefox to edit CSS, and then we could get a live preview of the CSS there, and if you are fine with that edits, then you can go ahead and add that to the CSS files. So that would be very easier. But I recently I'm switched to Tailwind CSS, so it has all that nitty-gritty features and built inside the CSS framework itself, so we have precise control over the CSS properties without editing CSS. So we can add these styles as a new CSS class and add that to the HTML, so it looks fairly decent. And now we can add a footer section to the blog, because it looks kind of bland down there, so we could add a footer there. So I have already copied a footer section from the Bulma, so I can add that footer to the layout. So after the scripts we can add that footer section. So it's footer class footer and format it nicely. So we have a footer section now. So that's all for now, and we could see in the next video. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and please do subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Bye.